Hey there, YouTube. Welcome back. It's the start of another week of wrestling, which means Monday Night Raw. I'm going full Transformer and rocking my red Optimus Prime shirt. I'm still trying to get this channel up and running from scratch, so if you're watching, give it a chance. Hit that like button, share with any wrestling or action figure friends you might have, and of course, subscribe to the channel. I do videos 4 times a week, plus pay-per-views. You can also talk to me over on Twitter, at PSUOptimus, or over on Instagram, at WrestlingOptimus. Anyway, for a review and some fantasy booking, let's take it over to the action figures.
Raw opens with Samoa Joe in the ring for a double contract signing. Seth Rollins' match at SummerSlam, and his opponent, the newest WWE superstar, Dominic Mysterio. Joe says he'll have to watch himself and stay professional despite how much he hates Seth. The Monday Night Messiah comes out with Murphy. Joe says, on the other hand, despite his literal baby face, he does respect Dominic as a man. The younger Mysterio timidly comes out with a kendo stick. Seth mocks how scared Dominic looks. Joe calls this version of Seth sad. He could be great, but he takes out people's eyes, relies on henchmen, and wrestles untrained rookies. Seth claims that he had to make these sacrifices for the greater good. Dominic interrupts him and says that's just an excuse. The only greater good Seth fights for is his own. Seth says Dominic wouldn't last 10 seconds in a standard match with him, so he allows him to use weapons at their SummerSlam match. He invites Dominic to sit ringside and take notes during his match. After a commercial break, we get a short match between Seth Rollins and Humberto Carrillo. Murphy tries to interfere, but Dominic catches him with a kendo stick. It's meaningless, though, as Seth immediately nails Humberto with a super kick, powerbomb, and a curb stomp for the win. Murphy drags Dominic into the ring for a 2-on-1 beatdown with kendo sticks. No one comes out to help. Why don't the Mysterios have any friends? They tie Dominic up in the ropes and berate Ray into the camera. Dominic is left with a slew of nasty red stripes as Seth does an evil laugh. These were real shots, folks, and the pictures on social media prove it. I haven't liked Seth's Monday Night Messiah character since it debuted. It's too much like how he is on Twitter in real life, and honestly, at this point, I'm totally lost by his motivations and goals. He's become a combination of boring and confusing to the point of go-home heat. Also, Seth needs to be wrestling higher-profile opponents. However, this is a big-time debut story for Dominic, so I'm at least happy for him.
I have always liked Humberto Carrillo, though. And a few months back, I really thought they were going to push him to the moon. His Aztec-inspired entrance gear would sell so many action figures. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, Vince lost interest and canned his push. We get a recap of Retribution and their attacks over the past week. Vega's boys come to the ring. Zelina denies poisoning Montez because it would ruin her client's opportunity for a tag title shot at SummerSlam. She also doesn't appreciate Bianca's attack that was captured during the week on social media. The lights and music go out during Angelo Dawkins' entrance. Apparently Zelina is taking on Bianca right after this match, so why is Zelina out here and Bianca isn't?
In a quick match, Dawkins is at the disadvantage because he's alone. Right as Zelina Vega is about to interfere, Bianca takes her out. Angelo hits the cash out for the win.
This leads us to the inevitable match between Zelina Vega and Bianca Belair. Although Zelina is actually a very talented wrestler, in WWE's kayfabe, she's a manager, and she shouldn't be anywhere on Bianca's level. They do a good job of making her look crafty and slippery to make it seem like it's competitive in spite of this. Meanwhile, Bianca is a great combo of cocky yet aggressive. She delivers the kiss of death for the win. My Bianca Bell action figure is in the mail, but delayed due to COVID. And the Andrade and Zelina Vega battle pack is near the top of my to-get list. After I get my AEW figures, of course.
After the match, Dawkins and Bianca give a quick promo saying Montez will be fine for SummerSlam and he wouldn't miss the biggest party of the summer. They want the smoke.
As for the fantasy book, I still want to see intergender trios with these two groups, the Usos and Naomi, Heavy Machinery with Mandy Rose, and whatever Retribution has to offer. Next, we're in the VIP lounge with the Hurt Business. MVP says he told you so, there is a conspiracy out to get him. Apollo never beat him. The Lights beat him? Wow, that's lame. Out comes Apollo, and apparently this new belt is official, and costs thousands of dollars. He says MVP is full of excuses. MVP says he was stupid to come out here alone. But Cruz avoids Lashley and Benjamin, gets into the ring, picks up a freaking leather couch, and throws it at the Hurt Business. This leads to a match between Apollo and Shelton Benjamin. Cruz shows off his athleticism per usual. Lashley trips him up for the distraction and a roll-up loss. Afterwards, Bobby puts Apollo in the full Nelson, but MVP stops him, saying he needs Apollo healthy for SummerSlam, unlike the last time when he was hurt. Cruz uses this opportunity to kick MVP in the face and takes off with his belt.
In a terribly acted segment, Retribution cheers each other on as they lightly toss a cinder block through a single window, and then run away while an official yells at them. Weirdly, one of them is actually wearing one of Tozawa's ninja costumes rather than the ski mask that the rest of them are wearing. Backstage, Mickie James returns for an interview. She's interrupted by Lana and Natty, who try to get Boat over. But Mickie says she'll sink them if they get in her way. Fantasy booking-wise, I was randomly thinking that I'd like to see Natalya team with Davey Boy Smith Jr. and Brian Pillman Jr. as the Hart Legacy. I don't know, I just think that'd be cool.
Ivar is flirting with some blonde in the backstage area as we continue this joke about him being cute and Eric not so much. The Elite Viking Raider Battle Pack comes out this October.
Next, we get an incredibly short and disappointing match between Tozawa and his ninjas versus the Viking Raiders and Two Fly Crew. The ninjas take all of the punishment, but the final ninja refuses to tag in, while another takes a Viking experience to lose the match. What a complete waste of such tremendous talent. On his way up the ramp, Tozawa is confronted by a referee, and the ninja who refused to fight rolls him up to steal the 24/7 title. He takes off his mask and, of course, it's R-Truth, the now 38-time champ. An Elite R-Truth with the 24/7 title is coming out in the series with Matt Riddle and Glow Naomi, so I'm excited about that. Drew McIntyre is being interviewed backstage. He had an epiphany. The reason Randy doesn't give away his knowledge is self-preservation. He took the torch years ago and knows if he ever lets go, he's a thing of the past. But Drew is gonna take that torch and kick Randy in the head at SummerSlam. Liv Morgan comes to the ring accompanied by Ruby Riott for a match against Peyton Royce accompanied by Billie Kay. There's a miscommunication with Ruby and Billie that leads to a ref distraction and whatever Peyton Royce's finisher is for the win. Liv still doesn't trust Ruby.
Just like back in the day when the second half of Raw, called Warzone, had more cursing, sex, and violence, Raw Underground apparently exists in the third hour exclusively. Riddick Moss is back, taking on a guy I thought was Dolph Ziggler. This fight isn't a squash like the matches we saw last week, and it goes on for far longer.
In easily the match of the night, Asuka takes on Bayley with Sasha at ringside. It's a great, long, competitive match with submissions and near falls. What a contrast with AEW's women's division, where we barely see the women at all, let alone wrestling. In the end, Bayley taps out to the Asuka lock. This could be a classic underdog babyface story if they play it right, aka the way I want. You have two legitimately talented heels hogging all of the gold. As a duo, they have a built-in advantage. If Asuka can overcome that, she'll have the audience's sympathy. My fantasy book, I still think she needs a partner if she's going to save the women's division, and that should be Io Shirai.
And that has nothing to do with her figure coming out soon, I swear. Speaking of which, though, the new Bayley with the soccer mom haircut is coming out soon too, but my girlfriend, who used to be an Izzy-level Bayley fan, says I'm not allowed to get it because we hate Bayley now. Hidden NXT gem and actual capoeira fighter Arturo Ruas is on Raw Underground. Shane says he's a 7-time amateur wrestling champion back in Brazil, although I'm not sure about that. I am sure, however, that this is the perfect match setting for his character, and I'm glad that he's finally getting some screen time. He immediately takes down his opponent and starts to beat him, but it's his spinning back heel kick that gets the KO.
After a commercial break, we're back in Raw Underground. Dama Kato is back and resorts to grabbing some jobber's dick in order to win. Suddenly, Shayna Baszler arrives. No one will fight her, so she just grabs some brunette out of the crowd. A couple of blondes try to make the save, but they get laid out too. All three attack at once, but it still doesn't matter. We get another corny retribution segment. They're smashing up a flipped-over car while yelling, "Look what we did!" In our main event, we get a match between Randy Orton with Ric Flair and Kevin Owens. I'll say it again, KO's moveset is my favorite in WWE, and it's the only reason this match wasn't your typical boring Randy Orton match. The stunner, cannonball, pop-up powerbomb, frog splash, the running senton, etc. They all look cool and impactful. After a hard-fought match, Randy hits the RKO out of nowhere for the win. Ric Flair steps into the ring and Randy asks to talk. He claims that this fight with KO wasn't necessary, it was caused by Ric's ego. But he can't be mad at the Nature Boy. However, he doesn't respect or love Ric anymore. Ric's become a liability to Randy's career. Randy makes a bunch of personal references that I wasn't exactly comfortable with, but I guess that's his character now. Ric says that he's 71 years old and still gets to be on Raw. It's great, and yeah, he wants the spotlight, but he also wants Randy's approval. He wants Randy to break his title record. When he was in a coma, he faced death, and it changed his perspective. Now, he just wants to see the people he loves succeed. They hug. Then Randy Orton punches Ric Flair in the balls and sets him up for the punt. The lights conveniently go out just as he makes contact with Ric's head. Drew McIntyre chases Randy Orton out of the ring, and they stare at each other for an awkwardly long time to close out the show.
This is one of those times when the 3-hour length is just so detrimental to Raw. My first impression is that nothing was terrible, but it definitely seemed to drag at far too many points. It was heavy on the wacky finishes and comedy, so if that's not your style, you likely hated this episode. The end was pretty dull, but that's probably because I haven't been into Randy Orton in some time now. I don't know. Afterwards, I wasn't pumped up and excited to talk about this, like I was with the most recent episodes of SmackDown and Dynamite. We'll have to see what happens with the ratings. Okay, that'll do it for this week's Raw. I know I'm new and my quality isn't the best yet, but if you do enjoy my content, please do all the normal YouTube stuff. Like, share, and subscribe. Spread the word about this channel. Talk to me over on Twitter at PSUOptimus or on Instagram at WrestlingOptimus. Of course, check back in for dark and deadly draw reactions tomorrow, and an action figure review of AEW Dynamite on Thursday. Until then, I'll catch you later.